With the NBA playoffs right around the corner, that means the elite teams will be competing for the championship. But the teams will need some help of some role players, but I'm here to tell you about some players who you shouldn't trust in the playoffs. Don't forget to like, show support, subscribe to join the crew before 300 subscribers, and comment to start a conversation with me, and play that intro.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
On a video like this, you knew Eric Bledsoe would be here, because in his last two playoff appearances, he has been very disappointing. Let's look at the 2017-2018 playoffs, where the Milwaukee Bucks faced the Boston Celtics in the first round, who were without Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward. Most thought Milwaukee would win, but they lost in 7 games, and Eric was no help on offense, only averaging 13.6 points per game and 3.7 assists on 44% from the field and 31% from 3. He was also terrible on defense, letting Boston's backup point guard Terry Rozier give him buckets and outplay Eric, who was considered a top 10 point guard at the time. And in the 2018-2019 NBA playoffs, the Bucks were the number 1 seed, and most expected them to make it all the way to the finals. But in the conference finals, Eric was a huge reason why Milwaukee lost to Toronto. He was disgusting, only shooting 29% from the field and 17% from 3. Bledsoe was constantly missing open threes and turning the ball over. With all their terrible performances in the playoffs recently, I have no reason to believe that Bledsoe will be good in these playoffs. Someone who you wouldn't expect on this list is Duncan Robinson. Duncan is a pure shooter and he will be important for Miami in the playoffs. But Miami, depending on him a lot for shooting, might be a detriment to their team because they will depend on Duncan, who will have to hit huge shots for Miami. And you might think he can hit these clutch shots, but in the playoff it's different, and it will be his first playoff appearance, so he'll be going in with no playoff experience. And you simply can't expect a player who can only shoot threes to be consistent in the playoffs when teams will game plan for him more than they did in the regular season. I think Duncan will be inconsistent in the playoffs, and it will hinder Miami's final chances. The third person we will talk about is Danilo Gallinari, who is a big contributor to OKC this season, being a 20 points per game scorer and being a great shot creator. But with him being OKC's best pure scorer, I don't believe he will step up in the playoffs for OKC, because although Danilo has been in the league for 12 years, he has only made the playoffs 3 times, and he has only made it 1 time in the last 7 seasons. So although he is a veteran, he has barely any playoff experience. And in his playoff appearances, he has been terrible, averaging 15.2 points per game on 36% from the field and 29% from 3. And in his most recent playoff appearance last season against the Golden State Warriors, his all-star-less team surprised everyone, forcing the Warriors to 6 games, but Danilo was not a huge help, because even though he averaged 19 points on a terrible 35% from the field and 30% from 3. So obviously there's no evidence that should make me think Danilo will step up in these playoffs. Although Danny Green for most of his career has been always in the playoffs, it doesn't mean that he's always good. Danny's role on offense has always been to hit open threes and catch and shoot. But Danny was good in the playoffs earlier in his career, but in the last 2 playoff appearances, Danny has not been able to hit his shots consistently. For example, in the 2017-2018 playoffs, he shot 25% from 3, and just last year he shot 32% from 3 in the playoffs, and was constantly missing wide open threes and being very inconsistent. I would not expect Danny to be consistent in the playoffs for the Lakers. Tobias Harris will be very depended on by the Philadelphia 76ers because he might be their only perimeter scorer and the only guy who can create his shot. But I don't think Tobias can handle that responsibility. He's simply not on that level. On top of that, in his career, he has only been in the playoffs twice, so he doesn't have experience to be the main perimeter scorer for a championship level team. even in the last year's playoffs. With him being Philly's 5th or 4th option, he still struggled, averaging only 15 points per game on 42% from the field and 34% from 3. And in the second round versus the Toronto Raptors, he was worse, averaging 14 points per game on 38% from the field and 27% from 3. He also wasn't even their first option. He was the 3rd option, so there wasn't as much pressure on him than there will be in the playoffs this year. And with Tobias being depended on, I believe he will be disappointing to everyone. I know that most of you guys weren't expecting Lou Williams to be on this list, but in this year's postseason, he will be under the most pressure that he has ever been in the playoffs. And with the Clippers being expected to make the finals by many, I don't think Lou will be as good as you think. In Lou's playoff career, he has only averaged 12.2 points per game on 38% from the field and 20% from 3. So he clearly has been disappointing many times. And in last year's playoffs, he was good, averaging 21 points per game, 7 assists on 43% from the field and 33% from 3. But he had some terrible games, such as Game 3 where he put up 16 points on 36% from the field, and in Game 4 where he put up 12 points on 20% from the field. So he's very inconsistent in the playoffs, clearly. In his 3 games against the Lakers, who many think the Clippers will meet in the conference finals, Lou has been very bad, averaging 11.3 points per game and 5.7 assists on 38% from the field and 25% from 3. I can see Lou not finishing the end of games in the playoffs if he is not hitting his shots and is being attacked on defense. Anyways guys, that's it for the video. Don't forget to like to show support, subscribe to be a part of the crew before 300, comment to start a conversation, and check these 2 videos out if you like this one, and I'm out.